Ladies, gentlemen, non-binary folk, aliens, attack helicopters, whoever may be tuning in to this lovely podcast that I have brought myself to. I hope you're doing beautiful. You are beautiful. You are worth it. And you are going to achieve great things in this lifetime. I believe in you. With all that being said, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing just fantastic. And yeah, we got another episode here. I think we should talk about, it's kind of the spur of moment idea. I won't lie. I mean, I was thinking I was going to do a podcast on Monday, but I'm like, you know what? I got to be consistent with this shit because my one person that listens to me, they're waiting. Hopefully they're waiting. But, so yeah, I'm going to talk about separateness because I feel like it's really prevalent in our society. Everybody feels alone. People feel like they don't have anything, no community, no person they can turn to when shit gets rough. And that's probably why a lot of people turn to like substances and alcohol, whatever. That's a substance. I'm retarded, but gambling, sex. People turn to a lot of different things because the separateness, and they're just looking for a place of belonging and stuff. I think it's a real problem. So here we are to discuss that problem. So I think where I should start is how our bodies and brains evolved. I think that, well, not I think, when we were hominids on the savannah and shit, back in the forest, the good times, throwbacks to the times where things weren't easy, but they were easy and they weren't easy. You know what I mean? But, so we lived in like tribes of like 50 people, right? And we knew everybody. Like, that's why it's like, that's why everybody has this ideology to be famous and like attention seek and stuff, because we are used to being known by everybody in our community and stuff, right? And without that, it makes us kind of lack substance in our brain, right? And we don't feel as connected or feel as happy as we could. But like, you say you have a kid, and then this kid would be raised by at least 50 people, because you got your parents and your grandparents, and then you got your cousins and neighbors and all these other people that live around you, and they would help you to raise this child. And I think that's why I'm pretty sure it takes at least 50 people to raise a child, right? And yeah, I think so. I think it takes at least a decent amount of people to raise a child, not just the parents and the grandparents, but more people. Like, you need a community to teach this child how it should act in a community, right? I think that makes sense. So, yeah, we would go hunting together. We would go, we'd fish together. We'd sit by the fire together. It was just part of the community, and everybody got along. And if they didn't, that's another reason why, when people are arguing or something, when you're banished from your community, like say in high school or something, you're in a group and they just throw you out for some reason, that can fucking feel devastating, because back in the day, if you were on your own, that was suicide. You were done. I mean, you might have a good fighting chance, but without somebody watching your back, it's a fucking issue. And you could have a fucking huge problem, because there's lions and bears and all kinds of shit that could tear you apart and fucking eat your asshole. And yeah, so um, I think that in this society now, because we live next to people like our neighbors and all these other people in our neighborhood and community, we don't really know that many people, because there's so many people around us now. And I think that fucks with our heads, because um, we're used to knowing all these people that we used to live with, and like, obviously I'm talking genetically and the memory of our bodies and minds, because our brains and bodies are still the same as hominids that lived however long ago, you know Our brains and bodies haven't changed that much. It's just everything around us is changing. And so, living next to these strangers, our brains and bodies are kind of just like freaking out, like, oh shit, I'm alone, I got nobody. Because you, like, yeah, you may know your neighbor's name and stuff, but you don't go to your neighbor when shit's going down. I mean, maybe some people do, but like, your neighbor's busy. He's doing his own thing, got his own thing going on, and you can't just go to him and fucking pretend, or not pretend, but go to him with an issue. Like, listen, I'm feeling suicidal right now. I need some help. And he'd be like, I'm just raking my leaves, dude. Get the fuck back inside. Go fucking see a therapist. I'm not your therapist. But and in this society, we feel like we're doing everything by ourselves, and that's why everybody has this ego complex, I think, and a sense of separateness and sense of being alone, because we basically, on the outside, it looks like we're doing everything ourselves. We work for ourselves. We raise a family for ourselves. We do all this stuff for ourselves, right? But in actuality, we are no separate and no more independent than we were back then. Because let's say, even on the most basic level, right? Somebody made my shoes, somebody made my shirt, somebody made, my underwear, whatever the hell it is, somebody made this truck. We're still dependent on our society. And most people don't think that way. Most people think, oh, I'm independent, I do this shit myself. But you need other people. There's no way around it. I mean, I like to think of us more as bees. Like, bees, they work together, do one goal, and they are building a hive and raising young and all this. And I think that is more closely like what humans are than just these separate hominids just walking around and stuff, doing things for their own personal gain. I mean, sure, people may think that way, but in all actuality, like, working at Winnebago has taught me that, like, if I stand over the ledge and I watch everybody down on the bottom floor working, they're all doing their own thing. If it was them, they'd think they're doing their own thing. But if you watch from above, it's more like a beehive putting together these things and making these complex things, like vehicles and whatever it is, iPhones, whatever it may be. We are more closely related to that kind of group think than we like to admit. And when we are thinking we are separate, that's why we feel so alone. But I think that if you improve yourself, you are improving everybody else, because you not only are you giving yourself that advantage by, what is it, working out or teaching yourself things or whatever it may be, you are also helping everybody else be around you. Because if you are you're advancing yourself and gaining these new ideas or gaining muscle mass or whatever it may be, that would allow you to, whoever it is, I mean, say it's your dad, your mom, your child, you are able to lift things more readily if it's physical strength and stuff like that, or you are able to give them better ideas and better knowledge and all this other stuff if you are working on your mind. And I think that the mind, body, and spirit aren't separate. We like to look at it as, this is our mind, this is our body, this is our spirit. And most people nowadays don't even believe that we have a spirit. But I think you can't move the body without the mind, and the mind is terrible if you don't work on your body. That's why people exercise and stuff. It's not just to advance their physical structure. Yeah, there are physical benefits, and you may live longer and all this nonsense, but your mind feels better because you hold this amount of anxiety inside and depression and all this nonsense from how traumatic and hard the world can be. And without working out that anxiety and depression and all this nonsense, you're just building it in and building it in, the stress, and it's all building up, and then you feel like shit all the time. And especially if you're eating shitty food and you're not working out at all. You don't even get up. You go to work, come home, lay back in bed or whatever, sit down and watch TV. You're not working out your brain. Your brain, when you go and exercise, it's not that you are just working out your physical body. Yes, there are physical benefits. Your muscles will grow, your body will function better. But you are also testing the will and discipline of your mind. I mean, it is not easy. I hate going to the gym, and I do it, try to do it 3 to 4 times a week. It sucks. It's never, I mean, people say, oh, it gets easier, it gets easier. Bullshit. It doesn't get easier, especially when you're doing a lot of cardio and you have to run a lot of miles. Like, my brain still convinces me to get off that treadmill or go home, just turn around. Yeah, when it comes to treadmill, I do listen sometimes. More than likely, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. But you have to push through that, because that is testing your mind. If you always go and say there's a little box and you are only putting your amount of effort that you can to put to the sides of the box, well, yeah, that's great, and you are maintaining what you have. Maybe, I mean, you could be declining without knowing it, but say you are maintaining what you have, but you're still not improving because you're not breaking through the sides of those boxes, right? And then you're fucking just stagnant. You're not doing anything with your time and effort and whatever it is, the discipline. I mean, it goes away quicker than it comes. It's like muscle. Your mental discipline, your will, your capability of executing and adapting and pushing through adversity, it just goes away. I mean, it's like a muscle. Muscles you work out, it took me fucking, I've been working out for probably 2 years now, maybe a year and a half, but I still am having to go every single day, because if I do not go for, like, let's say a month, all my muscle mass will just disappear. I mean, muscle mass takes forever to build, but it goes away so quickly. And that's how discipline and all this other stuff is. It's like a muscle. You have to continue to work on it constantly. And if you don't, it will disappear and you won't have it anymore. But you have to be able to push through these boxes and push through the boundaries of your mind and test your will and strength and resolve. Because if you don't, then you're just going to be stagnant and you're going to feel like you're not improving. And then you're going to be like, oh. And it was like I talked about before, those growth and fixed mindsets. Fixed mindset believes that you can't move. This is who you are. This is it. But a growth mindset looks at it and it's like, oh, if I push through this barrier, I will grow into a more adaptable, more adversity ready, more strong person. And I will be able to, next time something else happens, the same thing happens, say, I mean, you're going to be ready for it, and you're going to know what to do. Your brain's not going to freak out. Like, we still have these primal circuits in our brain, the fight or flight, and people talk about it, but I don't think they really know what it means, because the amygdala is such a primal, it's like our lizard brain. I mean, it's such a primal a circuit to have in our brain that it's been there for millions of years, even before we were hominids. I think fish have it, and like bugs have it. Everybody has a fight or flight mode, because it's what you needed. Something happens, a lot of stimulation comes in, a lion's chasing you or something. You either have to be able to pick something up and kill that lion, or you better be able to get away, because if you do not, you're going to die. And that is our main form of, not main form, but it is the entire reason we do things. It is our circuits to survive. I mean, that's why most people, I hope, do not try to commit suicide or get to that point. But when people do, I've heard studies and research and stories about people jumping off like the Golden Gate Bridge or shooting themselves and they survive. When they survive that, they have so much regret and so much more depression and anxiety from failing, or not failing. I guess it is kind of failing. It's from failing because their attempt was not successful, and they thought maybe this is what they needed. Maybe they needed to take themselves off this planet. But in all actuality, the people who survive these things are like, I can't believe I did this. And your survival mechanism is trying to fight that constantly. Like it's not an easy feat to go and do something like that because you are literally fighting every single circuit in your brain, and it is not easy because, I mean, it's just that simple. We're trying to survive. We procreate to survive. We eat to survive. We drink to survive. We get shelter to survive. And if we are not surviving, then we're gonna die. Obviously, what else would there be? I mean, maybe you're holding on for a little bit longer than usual, but you're gonna die if you're not trying to survive. And that's what our bodies and minds are trying to do constantly, just survive. But that B aspect, if you sit there and watch people, even like cars on the road, or what else is there? McDonald's. I mean, it's everything. It can be as simple as just working at a McDonald's. There is multiple people working together to complete one goal. What else? What else is that? I mean, ants do that. Bugs do that. Not all bugs, but bees and ants is what comes to mind right now. If they're not doing that, and one bee strays off from the rest, they're done. They're gonna get killed or something. They're gonna get fucked up. Or like if a wasp comes into the bee nest, they all have. What's crazy is they all combine, and they all go on top of the wasp, and they flap their wings super fast. And what this does is it heats the wasp up, and it literally cooks the wasp from the outside in. I mean, it's like cooking a steak, but it's bees and a wasp, and it's pretty fucking wild to see if you look up a video or something. But um, yeah, we're all connected for sure, and that's another reason why you should treat people with respect and love and empathize, no matter what happens. Like, say, even if somebody robs you, or something even horrible, more horrible than that, like they kill your loved one or a family member, you're gonna have to. If you hold on to that resentment and hate, is that hurting the other person? No, it's not. I think it was the Buddha who said, anger, and I like to add the word hate to it too. So anger and hate is an acid which burns the vessel it is in more than it could burn anything it's ever poured onto. And that means basically that if you are holding this anger and hate and resentment in, that's only burning you, because you're not telling anybody that you hate them unless you are, but maybe they don't even care. You're just holding on to this terrible feeling like, oh, and then you get angry every time you hear about them or see them, and that's just hurting you, and it's not going to do anything. So you have to be able to forgive. That is, I think a lot of the religions talk about that, is the ability to forgive and forget. I mean, obviously you're not going to forget completely, but to be able to look at it in a different perspective, to where you are not holding on to that bullshit, to where you sound like Biden. You have to be able to forgive them, and be able to empathize and walk in their shoes and see this person as a person. Like Joe Rogan talks about how he used to see people as just these stagnant things, right? You're this way. This is Frank. He's 40, and he's always been this way. But what he realized after having children was that it is just fuck, what it is just I'm trying to figure out how to say this. It is just a series of experiences and happenings and people you've met and things you've done that make you into who you are today. Like, I'm different from who I was when I was born, because we're all born blank slates. We have so much potential. And unfortunately, our schooling system and all this other stuff, yeah, they tell us, oh, reach for the stars, never stop chasing your dreams, shit like that. But how? How do I do that? You're just telling me to chase my dreams. You're not telling me how to form my dreams, do what I love. Maybe they are telling you to do what you love, but how do I know what I love? I'm a child. And even if you're not a child, it's hard as fuck to figure out what you actually want in this world. It takes years of thinking and planning and executing certain things. I mean, you can only plan so far ahead, because there's always stuff that you cannot plan for. you plan for this and that and this and that, and then you can try to keep an open mind about the stuff that you didn't plan for. But then 9 times out of 10, what you didn't even have go through your mind is going to come up, and then your adversity is going to be tested, and you're going to have to figure out how to figure this out. Because if you don't, that's how people fall down into depression, anxiety, all this stuff, because they don't have the adaptability and the neuroplasticity and the ability to deal with adversity um, to destroy this problem that they have in front of them. They just succumb to it and they get soft. David Goggins says the worst thing that can happen to a man is to become civilized, because you're not, I mean, even if you're getting married and you're having kids, you're not supposed to settle down. I mean, everybody does it. They settle down, they stop working as hard. He talks about also how when you start a new job, I like this example actually, so I'm going to say it. You start a new job, and when you first start this job, you give it your all. You are putting 100% in it. You set your clothes out in the morning. You wake up early. You make coffee. Do all the things you need to do. Get there. You put your 100% effort into this job to show people what you are capable of. But then slowly, after time goes by, and it doesn't even have to be a lot of time. That's what's crazy. You stop putting your clothes out. You stop getting up early. You just get up 5 minutes before. And I'm guilty of this myself, because if I'm tired, I don't want to be getting up at 4:30 in the morning. Actually last week, I've been turning my alarms off and just waking up with 20 minutes to get out the door. And you don't want to do that. That creates unnecessary stress and anxiety, because you're like, oh, I gotta move. I'm gonna be late. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. And then you're moving around. Your brain's going crazy. You gotta freak out and then you make mistakes too. When you're moving that fast, there's no way you don't make mistakes. You drop your coffee. Oh, fuck. I spilled it. Now I gotta sit here for another 5-10 minutes cleaning this up. Or I don't even know what else. Maybe you have to use the bathroom and you don't have time to use the bathroom. And then you shit your pants. And then you gotta go back home because you shit your pants. Obviously, these are rare examples. Coffee isn't, but shitting your pants might be. Unless, you're into that kind of thing. I ain't got any problem with that. But you got to be able to be uncivilized in a civilized world. Another saying of his is, be abnormal I forgot it. It's like, be abnormal in abnormal people. Something like that. Like, yeah, that's about all I got. It's like be abnormal amongst it's be uncommon against fuck. I keep fucking this saying up. Who the fuck am I to talk about this shit if I can't say it? But it's be uncommon amongst uncommon people, which means everybody is different. Everybody has their differences, but you have to be different. You have to be the person who they think about when they go to bed at night. Like, oh, this person's working harder than me. This person's doing better than me. But you don't think about it in a jealous manner. I think jealousy itself is a good emotion to be feeling. And people look at it as bad because you are jealous of this person and you feel like shit. But what you don't get taught is you're supposed to use that shitty feeling to turn yourself into something better. The only reason you're getting jealous of this person, and I've been guilty of this myself, is because you know you could be pushing yourself more, but you are not, and you feel like shit, and so you take it out on this other person rather than taking it out on yourself and figuring out where you could improve. So that jealousy can be a very good emotion, or it can be a bad emotion, and it can burn you down to the ground. But being uncivilized is important, because you can't get soft, because life's not going to get easier. Maybe you got a house, maybe you got kids, and you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about as much shit anymore. Now I got all this stuff. But you're still going to have to deal with problems that you didn't have before. Like, say, retirement comes, and then you're sitting with your mind all day long. That's not easy. That's why I'm always doing something. I have to, because my mind will start getting all crazy, and that's how I've gotten myself in trouble in the past, because you start to gravitate towards things to shut this fucker off, like alcohol or other substances or gambling or sex or whatever it may be, food, and then you're starting to get fat, or you're starting to be addicted to sex, or you're addicted to drugs or gambling, and then you have a bigger issue than what you started with. I mean, you got to be able to have the discipline to control your thought and mind, or else it will run you. And that's how most people are in society now, is they are controlled by their mind rather than their mind controlling them. And it's not even their fault, really, because we aren't taught about this stuff. But our brain's just trying to simplify things, as I've said before. And if you get into these patterns of thought, then you are just going to be doing them reflexively. You're not even going to think about them. They get so deeply ingrained in the subconscious of your mind that you don't even have the thought anymore. It just happens. Like, say you've been going to work every day for 40 years, and then once you get off, you drink a few beers. But then you drink more beers because those 2 beers aren't hitting anymore, and then you drink more beers, and now you're an alcoholic because you drink so much. And it's a slippery slope to fall down. I mean, our brains are very complex machines, and yes, they have created everything we see: cars, buildings, all this stuff that we need and love and appreciate. But they try to simplify things down to these small concepts. So, because if it didn't do that, the world is so complex. Like, everything going on and everything happening, there is so much happening all the time. And that is why the internet gives us such anxiety and depression and OCD and all this other stuff, is because there is so much being pumped into our brains constantly. Give me a second. That our brain just can't handle it anymore, and it starts to freak out, and you get anxious, depressed, and you're like, oh man. And then you start to look at the world as like a dangerous place, like, oh, this place is bad, like Chicago. I would never go there. I'm gonna get shot, killed. I'm not going to Mexico because of the cartel. I'm not going to Africa because of the viruses and the militia. But from what I've understood and heard and read and listened to, the world isn't as dangerous as we think. Like, if you look at social media and stuff and scroll through that all day, you got all this anxiety because, oh, this person got shot and killed. This person lost all their money to their spouse or their divorcee or some shit. Whatever it may be. But then you go outside. That ain't happening out here. I mean, look, it's just normal day. But because you looked at all this nonsense, your brain starts to freak out, and it's like, whoa, buddy, you got to get into this fight or flight mode. And I got to keep talking about that. I think I lost my went off on a tangent when I was talking about that. But you get into this fight or flight mode, and what's crazy is our brain doesn't understand the difference between a lion chasing us and your boss talking to you in a press conference or just at work in general. You get this anxiety, and your brain's like, I gotta get out of here, or I gotta fight this dude. And that's probably why people get so angry, or sad, or leave, or people do a lot of weird things because of our minds. But back to that amygdala, that fight or flight mode, you got to learn how to harness it, because Jocko Willink talks about how you should take a step back, look around, assess what's going on, because you get so, especially in like a high sensory overload situation, you pinpoint onto this small little thing, and then you're in this mode where you can't really see. You're seeing, obviously, but you can't see clearly, because you have to take a step back, look around, and see what's going on, take in every possibility that you can think of, and plan for the things you can't plan for. And then once you have taken that step back, taken a deep breath, and have calmed down, you can make a more rational and educated decision based on it, because now you have more information, more knowledge, more scenarios that could happen, and you are ready for that, whatever that is. But back to separateness, we are very connected on the physical level. We depend on each other. We just don't realize it. And if you don't try to walk in other people's shoes and have that growth mindset to where, oh, fuck this guy, he's a dickhead, and I'm not going to talk to him anymore. Well, maybe something happened that day to him and he just spazzed out and he was on the brink already, and then something happened and so he spazzed on you. And then he's sitting there like, oh shit, I shouldn't have treated that guy like that. Hopefully, if he's self-critical. But you got to be able to forgive, like I said before, and then you got to be able to think about it. Like, oh, what if this happened to me? Then I'd probably react the same way or even worse. And then you're more empathetic. You got more capacity for love for that person. And you're like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was. And it wasn't, it's not who they are. Like, people aren't angry all the time, obviously. Like, some people might get angry very often, but let's say somebody bitches you out in the office and they're screaming at you every day and they're treating you like a piece of shit. But then they go home and they treat their kids just fine and they love them and they have the capacity. You got to be able to take that love wherever it comes from, relationships, parental love, all this other kinds of love, love for the animal. And you got to be able to expand that to where you can love the neighbor, or not your neighbor. I mean, you do love. That's why it's in the Bible, love thy neighbor like you love thyself. And that's another thing we talked about before. You got to start loving yourself first. But you got to be able to take that love and love the person at the grocery store and love this person on the street homeless and love the other person that you see every day but you don't talk to them. Like, the ability to expand your capacity for love and understanding and empathy is one of the most important things you can learn to develop. I mean, these are all skills: forgiveness, love, communication, trust. They're all skills. We just don't look at them like that. We think we're born with them, and if we're not, we're just fucked up in the head. No. You have to develop these skills. Like, you have to be able to trust somebody and build that trust, or else you won't have a solid relationship. Or you got to be able to build that love. Well, I think the universe is run off love. It's not necessarily that we have to rebuild or build the love, but it's about rebuilding it. Because say you get in a relationship, you love this person more than anything, you don't see their flaws, you only see what's perfect about them. Then over time, gradually, they do this something, leave their socks out on the fucking floor, make a mess somewhere, and it happens constantly, and they don't clean it up. And then you start to get angry with them all the time, and you start to resent them, and you start to think about ways out of the situation, whether it be a breakup or, worst case scenario, you off yourself. But you start to think of ways out instead of thinking, oh, maybe I should just talk to this person in a loving and empathetic manner and figure out where we could improve this aspect of our relationship, whatever the relationship is, friendship, animals. You got to it's just like kids and animals. You got to sit there, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's over the course of many, many years of being consistent. And that's another problem with our societies. We're not consistent anymore. I mean, we're consistent in the ways we are addicted to things and reflexive behaviors such as the subconscious gives us, but we are not consistent in the way we act on the day and day. And it's not really our faults, because I look at us as changing every single day. We are not the same person. Maybe you're more tired, maybe you're more angry, maybe you're having a bad day so you're more sad. You're not the same person you were yesterday. And you have to be able to work with that and remain consistent in how you are and how you act, because if you don't, then you could really lose yourself in that. And if you lose yourself, it's really hard to re-find yourself. And you can't just base your sense of self off of, oh, I'm this guy, I do this job. No, because what if you lose that job? Then your identity's in question and you're freaking out because you don't know what your purpose or who you are anymore. You base your sense of self off of your friendships or whatever it may be. You got to be able to base your sense of self off of what you actually want to be. What are your core values, and what do you love to do? What it makes you happy. And it's way easier said than done, because it takes a lot of very objective, self-critical thinking to sit there and figure out who you are as an actual person. You are not this guy who brings groceries in, or whatever the scenario may be. You're not that person. At the very depth of your being, you are this soul. I like to look at it as you are this soul trapped in this meat package. But what is that quote? It's don't look at yourself as a body with a soul. Look at yourself as a soul with a body. Your soul controls all of it. It's just energy. And if you look at like atoms and the scientific um, basis of them, atoms are just 99% empty space. So that means we're basically see-through. Everything is see-through basically, because it's just air. I mean, I don't know exactly how it's held together and how our brains are perceiving this world, but if you can zoom in enough or take a fast enough picture, which I think Chance was telling me about the other day, that they developed a camera that could take pictures so fast that you could see the space between atoms. And that is just insane. That means that our bodies are held together by something that we can't perceive with modern science. And I like to look at it as energy. Energy brings all this stuff together, and energy keeps it together, and energy fuels the world. And I think that our soul is made out of energy, whatever that soul may be, and consciousness itself. Like I've said before, I like to look at it as a giant pool of consciousness, and it's like, the best way to describe it is like there's this pool, and there's tubes coming down from the pool, and they all connect into the back of our necks to give us water, right? And that is what consciousness is. And the only way you can survive, and I guess not survive, but be a biological being, whether it be a plant or an animal or maybe even a rock, you have to be connected to this pool. And once your physical body deteriorates, that pool is still there and that connection's still there. Maybe it gets put on with another body and something else taps into that pool, but it's still there. I mean, it's like a TV receiver. I don't know what the fuck a TV receiver is. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's like a radio, I should say. You are listening to music and somebody comes in and just smashes your radio, and then you're like, what the fuck, dude? And then you don't think that signal's gone forever and I can never listen to that again. No, you think, fuck, my radio's gone and I have to buy a new one. Well, I think, and then you can tap into that signal once again once you've had a new radio or you've listened in your car or something. I think that is how our brains work. It's just this receiver for consciousness, and once you tap out and you're gone off this physical plane, it's not that you're gone. You're not. I mean, your physical body's gone, but you're still there. It's just we can't see it anymore, and that's probably where ghosts and demons and shit like that come from. Is just this negative energy getting trapped on this planet. And like, if people are murdered in a certain house, it's like you can feel ghosts in there because this negative energy gets trapped. And I don't know how you would cleanse it out, but you can constantly feel it and stuff. And maybe energy becomes so strong that it can do stuff like paranormal, like closing doors and fucking with shit, because people are like, oh, it's just the wind. Well, maybe it is just energy and it's pushing things around, and it becomes so strong that it can tap into this physical plane without us being able to perceive it, because our brains are designed. That's the thing about the human brain and any animal brain in general. It's designed to survive, like I was saying before. And we see the world in a way that helps us survive. And that is why, like, if you look up psychedelic science and stuff like that, and near-death experiences and dream states and stuff like that, that it basically talks about how the brain is just filtering things through to help us survive. And what these experiences do is they turn these filters off and allow you to get more information from the environment. And I think that's super beneficial, because if you are stuck in this state of mind, like I was saying before, and you cannot see you actually need to see to gain a new perspective, you're seeing, but it's like you're looking at the world with one eye closed. You could see over here, but you can't see over there anymore. You can see the left, but you can't see what's right. That's how I'll say it. Um, and I think that we have to be able to, maybe if not substances, but we need to facilitate experiences that shift our perspective, whether it be educating ourselves or trying something new, doing hard things. And to be able to do that will give you a greater perspective and a more empathetic and loving perspective on life. And I think that ties back into separateness, because I think we are all connected via the physical plane, where we need each other to make our shoes and make our clothes. And because if think about it, if you had to, not only do you have to go to your job every day to make money, but you have to make your own clothes, make your own food, go find your own water, make your own shelter. You're not going to have time for anything. I mean, how the hell are we supposed to advance if we can't have time to advance? We have to just do this shit every day. But because we have other people doing things for us, we have the ability to have free time to come up with new ideas, scientifically, spiritually, philosophically, whatever it may be. And you have the ability to change the world from these ideas that somebody didn't have before. And I think that's super beneficial, and it should be facilitated in our society, because school does teach you certain things that are helpful, but it doesn't teach you things like this. Like, in your free time, develop skills like reading and getting better at that, and drawing, getting better at that, music, getting better at that, because one day these skills are going to be super important to need and use. I mean, maybe you're not using them in that current moment, but you're going to figure out one day that, oh, this was useful. Because it's not just that humans depend on each other, but I think ideas depend on each other. Because, like, for an example, I used to build a lot of Legos as a kid, and those little blueprints, yeah, they're for children, and they're just Lego bricks, but because I did that, and then I went to Winnebago, and I need blueprints and figure out how to put those things together, it was super easy for me to pick that up, because I was looking at that all the time as a kid, and I didn't know that skill would be useful. I just liked Legos. I was fucking around with them. Same goes for, I would watch YouTube all the time. I didn't know that watching YouTube would educate me and give me this education that school could not provide. And that's not the school system's fault, because they don't really know the best way to educate a child. I mean, and not just that, you can't educate people like they do, because we are all given the same information, and then people who do not receive that information well are considered stupid, or they're considered less than, and then they either drop out or get in drugs, do this shit that they shouldn't be doing. And then it's an even bigger problem, because they think they're stupid their whole lives, and that can lead to depression and mental problems. And but Einstein's quote is, if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will believe it's stupid its whole life. Because we all have different minds and different skill sets and different ways of seeing the world. And if we are judged all in this one linear path of, you gotta complete high school, and you gotta complete college, and you gotta get a job, and you gotta do all this stuff, but what if you're not good at any of that? What if you're just good at, I don't know, playing the violin? Well, that doesn't help you, because that's not what we want here. I mean, maybe you could be a professional musician with a lot of years and a lot of hard work, but nobody tells you that. And everybody looks at professional musicians and comedians and whatever it may be, podcasts and stuff like that, is being unattainable because we don't know how to get there. Nobody teaches us how to get there. They just teach us, do this and you will have a steady job and you will be happy. But from one of the things I've Jesus Christ, who the hell am I? From what I've learned, when you get a certain amount of money, it starts to mean absolutely nothing. Like, say, rocks. Like, you got a yard full of rocks. Maybe if you had one rock there, you'd be like, oh, look at that rock. I like that rock. But because you have so many rocks in your yard, it just becomes rocks. It's just, oh, okay. I see that every day. Fine. Maybe diamonds. You get so many diamonds, you're going to be like, oh, it's just a diamond. I'm not worried about that. The same goes for money. People strive to have a lot of money and achieve things that are attainable, yes, because of our society and what it makes it out to be. But once you get these fast cars and these watches and these chains and all this other nonsense, you realize you're not actually happy, because the point of life, I think, is life is not a journey. It is like music or dancing, or it's basically like music or dancing. You're not waiting for the end. You are listening or doing the entire movement, or listening to the entire music, the song or musical, whatever it is, and you're not waiting for the end. You're just enjoying it. And I think that's how life should be. You're not waiting to get to the end, because then all the journey, I mean, it's not a journey, but there is a journey to be had. And then the journey's over, and you're like, well, either I lived a good life or I didn't. And then you're either unhappy or you're happy. And if you're not working on that and facilitating that happiness and that peace of mind and learning how to deal with your emotions and discipline and the bullshit of the human mind and body, the animal shit that's been left in us for millions of years, then you're not going to be able to control yourself. You're going to be in this reflexive state where everything just happens, and you're not really in control. People like to try to have control over everything. Like, oh, I do this because I'm in control. My cigarette went out. But you say that, like, you try to do things to maintain control, but if you don't have discipline or intelligence or the physical capability, are you really in control? No, because you are bending to a will that, because it's easier for you to just do this thing, you start to do it more and more. Because if you don't have the ability to do something, then you're just not going to do it. But you have to develop that ability, and you have to build on it and build on it and build on it until you are this person. It's like what Martin Luther King said: you judge people by the character of or you judge people not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. But the problem is, with our society, most people don't even have a character anymore. People are so empty. No skills, no nothing. We just go to work every day and get a paycheck, go home, watch TV, and then you don't really have anything in your head. I mean, you have what high school taught you, and you have life experience, but you don't have anything much more than that. If you develop skills and adversity and discipline and all this stuff, and you test that every day. It's not just you do it once and then you have it forever. Like I was saying before, it's like a muscle. You have to continue to build and build and build on that. Then you will, if you start to build these skills, then you will have a lot of capability, and you will know what you can do and what you cannot do. But if you never test those boundaries and push through those walls, you'll never know what you're capable of. And maybe you think you're stupid. Maybe you think you're gay. I don't know why I said you're gay. That's an insult to me. Maybe you think you're an idiot. I already said that. I don't know what I'm going to say. Maybe you think, I don't know. Maybe you think you're weak. Maybe you think all this other nonsense. I can't believe I said gay. Maybe you think you're gay. Well, fucking go fucking figure it out, buddy. That's funny. But, I'm just used to fucking joking around like that. But, yeah, if you're not testing your boundaries and stuff, you're never going to know what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. So, you have to push through these things, and you have to be able to work with other people and love other people. And I think that's the point of this episode. And I think I can end it happily. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for listening.